It's a little on the crusty side. Wow! And there's your pickup sock. Or what once was. Today we are going to be scrubbing down the state of New York, and there's a lot of landmass we have to cover. Let's go ahead and bust out the pressure washer and the bubbles, and we're going to start scrubbing on it. Cleans up pretty nice. I'm surprised the spoke wheels, they still got some glisten to it. Still a bit of shine. So now, what we're gonna do, we're gonna shove it inside the shop and try to figure out, at least at the very end of this episode, why the fuel system is not working. I was getting ready to work on the fuel tank and noticed that we've got a bit of a problem here. I walked in my shop just now. I was actually doing other stuff. I wasn't prepared to record this yet. Then I saw something that disturbed me. Last night I got it all jacked up on the blocks there. So when we get to the brake part of the session, or the brake part of the series of this car, we'll be able to do that. So I jacked it up last night. It's afternoon now, so it's a good 12 plus hours. I came into here and it's raw fuel that's on the ground. I'm like, oh, that's just wonderful. Where's that coming from? So I'll get a little bit closer up to there. Now I can actually crawl underneath here, and the fuel tank leaks. Look at that. It's mocking me. It's like, no, nothing but problems. Oh yes, we'll be dropping a fuel tank and most likely replacing this too. Alrighty, let's drop this fuel tank. Alright. What is all that mess? So it might have emission. A charcoal canister? Is that a charcoal purge canister? I mean, you've got the main tank here, but then there's a secondary little auxiliary. And there is, oh my goodness, there is 4 lines. Let's see if we can get some better lighting. There are 4 lines coming from the fuel tank. There's 1, 2, and 3 and 4 and 5 lines. Now obviously that wire is your fuel sender wire, as well as that line, that's your feed line going to your fuel pump. So that's your supply. I assume that's vapors of some sort. I think we're going to have to get out the book on this one. Alright, let's do some old school Googling. Right. Exhaust emission systems, starters, transistor ignition. We're not fancy. Fuel pumps. Okay. Do we have anything? Oh, here we go. Fuel evaporation emissions. Scoot that down for you guys. See here. Jeep. Yeah, back when Jeeps were actually real Jeeps. Let's see here. Now this Daimler nonsense. Oh, here we go, right here. Chrysler Corporation Vapor Saver System. Oh, that's nice. It even has a name. That's cute. Now, it looks like you would fill up your gas tank as usual. Gas cap would seal it off. That is not a charcoal canister like I thought it was. It is a vapor separator. Okay, so it separates your liquid from your vapor. So think of it as basically more or less the utmost top of your fuel tank supply. And then they run a vent. Oh, that's that secondary vent I saw. That's not the fuel supply side. This is another supply side for your vapor only. And then it's connected, it looks like, through a 3-way connection here. So with the car off, fumes are collecting inside your crankcase. With the engine running, it's pulling from the carburetor bowl vent, the air cleaner, as well as your vapor. Hoovers it all up through your positive crankcase ventilation valve, your PCV valve, and goes into the intake and burns it out. Okay, well, that is the goofiest setup I've ever seen, but mind you, this is a 50-year-old, this is the early emission stuff. This is basically what they were starting to experiment with. Obviously, with old emission systems, it's really good to have a book like this to actually describe it. So that's what's going on. That's just a vacuum. So what's up with the 4 lines? Let's take a look here. because we got 4 ridiculous lines, and it looks like actually every line goes to every corner of the tank. Oh, there's actually a section here. Vent tubes, okay, here we go. 1 from each corner of the fuel tank extend into the separator, and the tubes are of different heights to provide positive ventilation of the tank regardless of the vehicle position. Oh, okay, so if you parked on incline, if you're all buggered and it's not flat, you're still only going to get a vent. You're just going to have ventilation. You're not going to have liquid fuel coming out. 1 vent line is short and provides a return line to the tank for liquid fuel or condensate within the separator. Oh, okay. Vapor vent line to crankcase cleaner ends at highest point in the separator and has small orifice to minimize liquid fuel transfer to crankcase. Right, so they did think about that. So now we know how the system works. Let's go ahead and get underneath the car and start dismantling it and see what that fuel tank looks like. And the cylinder. Okay, let's go ahead and start by removing our fuel tank cylinder wire. Okay, well normally you could take these off, except this one's been replaced, but the other ones are all crimped on. So we're just going to take the saw and just saw all 4 of them off. For ease of dropping of the tank. Now let's go ahead and we'll just go ahead and cut our fuel supply line now. I know I'm going to definitely replace that. Fuel supply line has also been cut. So now I think all we got to do is drop the physical tank. We'll take our J-bolts and go ahead and loosen them up, and I'll be right back. Skosh more, I think we'll have it. Okay. All right. Tank coming down. One ever so slightly used fuel tank. Let's go ahead and bust our fuel cylinder loose. See what kind of goodness we got going on there. Okie dokie. Yeah, right. Oh, there we go. Oh boy. Oh my. Do you think our cinder unit is a little on the crusty side? Wow. And there's your pickup sock. Or what once was. Look at that, the float's not even attached to our cinder unit. So our float is not even attached to our sending unit. Although granted, the sending unit actually moves fairly freely. Obviously, it's so corroded, it will never make contact with the points on the wiper. I think I require a new sender unit. Just possibly. Now for the inside of the... Ooh. Ooh. I think I can get everyone in here. Now we're looking at the inside of the tank. Yeah, you know, sometimes you can patch tanks up. I think this one's just a little bit out of warranty, yes? just a little bit. Well, that explains a couple of reasons why we couldn't draw fuel and why the gas was disappearing. And for everyone who's curious, there's our trunk pan, which is in absolutely fabulous condition. No, I'm not joking. This is not a Midwest car, thank goodness. So now what we're going to do is clean this mess up. Remove all the hoses. And apparently, looks like I might have household wire coming tied into here. I don't know where that goes. Trailer wiring, I don't know. That's going to have to get deleted. So let's spend a few minutes and get all this stripped down and cleaned up. I bet some of these hoses have been on here since 71. Good grief. There we go. There we go. Final hose is off. Well, now we've got all the hoses out of the way. Let's go ahead and bust out our brand new tank we got. There you go. I'm really glad they're still making tanks for these cars. Someone's got the stamp for them still. These C-bodies on these Mopars, they don't get much loving. All right. Well, looks shiny enough. There's it's a 4-port. When you order these, there's a 2 or a 4-port option. Make sure you guys get the right type. We do have the right type. Let's go ahead and put the fuel sender in first, and then we'll send it under. So now, before we put our new fuel sender unit in, we'll test to see if the fuel gauge will work, at least on this side, if it's sending the right signal, if it's full or not. Just looks like 75 ohms in one direction. And as we slowly move the float, goes all the way down to 10 ohms, it looks like. So we know when we put the tank in, at least for the gauge, this part works, as it should. The gasket's on the back side, you dummy. Gasket does not go on the front, goes on the back. Who's in charge around here? And there we have it. Excellent. That should not leak. Now, before we put that tank up, I want to put our mat back on here. So let's go ahead and see if I can figure out a way to do that. I got an idea. Obviously, you need mine came all with a nice oily residue to keep it nice and shiny, keep it from rusting. So we'll go ahead and take that off with some brake cleaner right quick. Okay, that should be enough. All right, so now that the top part is oil free, before I put our mat down, the adhesive I'm going to use it to hopefully it'll make the mat stay put is this 3M strip caulk. And basically what it is, it's basically moldable caulk that you can use like for heater boxes going up against your firewall to help seal them. I'm going to go ahead and just try to put some down, and hopefully it'll make that pad stick long enough. I
push that tank back up in the car, it won't fall off. I haven't used this stuff in quite a few years. I need to start using it. Alright, let's see what this looks like. Shall we give it a test? Alright. Seems pretty stuck. Hey, that little hack actually worked out pretty good. Alright, let's go ahead and put this gas tank back up in the car. And the back end comes up. Okay. What is the deal? At least get one J-hook attached. Should be good to go. Yeah. I knew I was going to hate this part. Ah! Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Finally! Goodness. It's finally suspended in air. Up in there. When you do put aftermarket tanks on here, I recommend with your J-bolts, back that nut all the way out so you get the best possible reach to get up in there. These tanks won't be exactly the same tooling, you know, the same size, I would imagine, because these original tanks haven't been made in 50 years. So you may have to got some wiggle room here. There we go. Okay. Go ahead and make sure the tank is somewhat aligned in the center. Go ahead and tighten that down. All right. Well, I can make the car rock. The tank doesn't move. I think we'll be all right. Now all we gotta do is hook up all of our fuel lines. I'll probably just do that off camera right quick. We'll be right back when we final overview. I got it buttoned up here. Stand by for 2 seconds. So there we have all of our fuel lines, or vapor lines, I suppose, all hooked up. Our fuel sender is also hooked up to it. And we are finished with the tank installation part of the program. Now we're going to head off and go ahead and replace the fuel pump next. So now that we have the fuel tank sorted, we're going to replace the fuel pump next. I have absolutely no idea what the diaphragm looks like or any of that. So in order to add reliability to the car, I think it would be a good idea to go ahead and replace the fuel pump. We will be replacing it with the Carter fuel pump. It says factory tested, fit and form assurance. I like that. Right. Unfortunately, I gotta get the alternator out first. So let's go ahead and remove the alternator and see if we can find a fuel pump down in there somewhere. Top bolts out. Oh, maybe I ought to do the bottom bolt next. Silly. There we go. Target acquired. Still got some twig from the cleanup. Imagine I'm going to see more of those still. Just looking at this pump right quick. It looks like it has some factory Mopar blue color on it. I wonder if this is an original pump. Pretty impressive if it was. Held it for 50 years. I doubt it. But I don't know. Oh. Well, that works. Actually, I'm coming to think about it, we couldn't get fuel to draw from this. So it probably is broken. So just for fun, I like sometimes looking at old car parts. And I took the liberty of cleaning up the old fuel pump. It does say Carter on there. And on the flip side, this was made in Canada. What's that all about? I don't know. I mean, I still can't believe this is an original pump. I mean, it's got the, I think that's the right Mopar color. All right, let's go and throw the new one on. Actually, no. We will not put the new one in yet. We gotta scrape some gaskets off here first. Silicone, whatever the heck is left here. Oh. Ooh. Yeah, that's pretty brittle stuff. Definitely an aged gasket, that's for sure. On the 440s at least, this is your actuation rod for your fuel pump. This is what comes down off the camshaft and actually pushes your lever down on your mechanical fuel pump. What you need to do when you put your new fuel pump in is you need to get that rod up and then slide your fuel pump arm underneath it. I'm going to push up. I feel it going up and then quickly get down. All right, so that only took one try. Excellent. There we go. All right, fuel pump installed. We should now work on the carburation device unit. Now, I had thought, well, they only made this original, I believe it's Carter, ABS style for about 5 years. Can't get needle or jets with them, although you can adapt them to new modern Edelbrock style. But one of my viewers said, yeah, you do realize they do make new ABS carburetors. I'm going, I looked up and oh my gosh darn, they do. So I was at the crossroads of, do we repair the old carburetor or do we put a new one on? And I have elected to put a new modern ABS carburetor on it because the car has so much life left in it. To service a carburetor, I think it would be really good for the car in the long term to have a new carburetor on it so it's easily serviceable by me or the next person that comes along downstream instead of dealing with the archaic original ABS carburetor. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and yard this thing off of here, throw it on the shelf for either future use or whatnot, and we shall install a brand new carburetor on here. Is that everything?
Hey, there we go.
Ooh, that's an oldie. We shall now remove the old thermostatic choke because the new one's going to be electric. Well, removed. Go ahead and clean up our mating surface here now.
Before we can install the new carburetor, we have to put our Mopar, or Chrysler if you will, linkage on here, as well as the, I don't know what you call it, the throttle bolt, I guess, holds all the linkage together. So we got some hardware we need to swap off first, right quick. Okay, so this should... No, wait. Hold on. Yeah, like that. Yes, I need to clean my shop up because I can't find any of my wrenches anymore. Alright. Okay. That appears to be more or less on the correct side. Okay. Go ahead and do our bolt. We'll do our bolt here right quick. That would go on here, like that. Alright, let's go ahead and install it. Slight note, when you are putting your new gasket on, your carburetor, if you want your engine to fire up when it's hot in the summertime a lot easier, use an insulated gasket instead of a regular paper gasket. These insulate the heat between your exhaust or your intake manifold and your carburetor, so it keeps your carburetor from percolating and boiling out and boiling over and the vapors magically disappearing. Not so necessary perhaps on your cast iron intakes, but definitely on your aluminum intakes.
I do like that look. All right. Yes. Ooh, almost just, there we go. Not quite center, but it does have enough floppage. The kickdown should work. May have to revisit that later. The linkage is definitely pulled over to this side. But for now, if we just hook up our return spring, let's say maybe right there, well, we got pumpage. I gotta take the cutters and cut that cotter pin off. But I think we've got some throttle action going on now. So now I'm gonna go ahead and do is I'm going to hook up my fuel line up to my hand pump, and I'm just going to put a vacuum on this until I get gas coming out of here. So the fuel pump will be ready to go, so we won't have to crank and crank and crank on it. It should fire off fairly quickly with the fuel pump primed. We'll go ahead and do that now. Oh, it didn't take too long. That should be good. Alright, well, we got the fuel primed. We got the fuel pump hooked back up. We have a fuel filter right here going in the carburetor all set up. PVC for our ventilation system is hooked up, ready to go. Vacuum line to the distributor is a go. I also put an electrical relay for the choke. You can run your electric choke through your ignition coil, but for longevity, I don't like to put that much amperage through the ignition switch, although it probably could handle it just fine. I like running that heater coil through a relay, because when your car is running up and down the road for hours, you know, that choke stays on. So to help keep the contact from the ignition switch from burning out, I did the more of the professional thing perhaps and put a relay in. So now all I have to do is put the alternator back in and we are ready to light it off. Okay. No, it's right. It's just gonna take a little bit longer. Right. That's suction, that's discharge. Gotta go 3 feet back into this thing. Oh no, she's dry as a bone. Okay, well, I'm gonna have to fill up the fuel bowl. All right. Yeah, we'll shoot some down the carburetor, I suppose. Let's see what that does. See if that helps it out. Man, it's good to hear that 440 go. That choke idle is way too high for my liking, so I'm going to back that down real quick before the engine actually gets warm. There we go. Let's see what that sounds like. Oof. Surprisingly, the cold light still works. Cool. Wow, that sounds really good. I'm really happy to hear it run again. It's been several months, it's been parked since I've gotten to this. I hear a little bit of popping in the exhaust, though not severe, but you could tell it's misfiring a little bit. That's because the spark plug wires are probably 30 years old, and I don't know what the spark plug looks like. We'll both discover that together, probably in the next installment of this car when we do a pretty big tune-up with it. Spark plug wires, points, and belts, and all kinds of other fun goodies. But I'm really happy right now with what I hear. It's drawing from its own tank under its own power now. Of course, I wouldn't mind driving it, except we've got brake issues. Of course, you remember that reservoir was dry in part 1. We gotta go through the whole brake system just to be safe. But for now, sounds a lot better and is pulling from its own tank. Couldn't be happier. Well, once I'm closer to get this big land yacht up and down the road again, probably call us an episode here. Thank you everyone for watching, and we will see you all in the next installment. So now what we'll do right quick, just for funsies, is test our fuel sender, fuel sender level sensor. I gotta figure out which way it goes. So now that we got the fuel pump all sorted out, no, I'm working on the fuel pump. Hello. Stay. Well. Oh no, is it too high? Oh, come on, really? Oh, you've got to be kidding. I'll just back it off manually. It looks like about an inch. And then I can get the sockets on there. Whatever. I should note, I'm using slightly smaller screws. Not screw, they're bolts. I don't want to crank the gas. Crank the motor to pull the gas that far. I've never taken a look at the spark plugs. That's 9/16. Come on, let's go. Chop. Well, I guess I need my 7/16. Excuse me. Okay. 7/16.